What is going on, guys? Welcome back to episode number 64 of the Idols to Rivals podcast. Again, this episode, we're going to be flying solo how we used to. We got people doing other things. So we're just going back to kind of the classic. And I like doing these. I like getting on for the solo episodes. I think it can kind of get back to the roots of how the podcast used to be. If you hadn't watched it before, this is where, I would go off on a subject, something I've been reading, something I've been going about. But we can get more into that later. If this is your first time listening, my name is Jack. I'm the host of this podcast at Jack Hummel on Instagram, YouTube. Those are the big two that I use. And of course, on Spotify, where this is played at, also available on Apple Music. I upload these every Wednesday night, Thursday morning, depends on when the upload gets out. It just depends on, obviously a co-host, depends on my work schedule, things along that nature, paying the bills, keeping the lights on. But nonetheless, they get uploaded and I love it. I've been doing it for about a year and a half now, and I honestly couldn't ask to do anything more. I love it. I see friends that have podcasts that are absolutely killing it, and I've just enjoyed it. I enjoy making YouTube videos. I enjoy photography, whether it be taking Instagram photos for other people, for myself, whatever it may be. All about the content creation, trying to get better at it, trying to evolve every episode. Last episode, if you're not watching on the YouTube video version, we have this awesome new background, which is the Idols Travels logo. And it kind of replaces the drab screen that we had behind there. I was going to get some stuff to hang up, some wallpaper or some posters or something like that. I would hang jerseys from there just to kind of get some backdrops. But now we have the Idols Travels logo behind, which was stolen straight from the Cruise Control podcast. And I think it really cleans it up. But like I said, video version available on YouTube. If you just type in Idols to Rivals, you will be able to find it, or Jack Hummel, whatever it may be. Same thing with if you were watching on YouTube and you want to go over here, the audio version on Spotify, whether you're driving or Apple Music. It's available on all of those, Google Play, anywhere you can listen to podcasts, it'll be there. Thanks. Shout out to Anchor for helping me distribute all of these podcasts. But sports, it's how we always start the podcast. It's how we always will. So great weekend for college football. It was great being back at a bar during college game day. And it was something that I didn't really put into perspective. I was wondering why there was so much hype. Obviously, Alabama won the national title last year. So I was wondering why it felt so different this year. I was we didn't miss football. The SEC played. We obviously went to the playoffs, but something felt different. And my roommate was finally like, yeah, we have fans. After 2 years, there's fans. And I never really thought about, the ambiance when you're listening to the game. Yeah, you hear the announcers, but it's that constant rumble or a massive play breaks out and you just hear the stadium just erupt and scream. And being at a bar, a full packed bar, I happened to go to a place right around the corner, which was an Alabama alumni bar. I think it's also an FSU alumni bar. We went there for the Notre Dame game the next day, which was nuts. But it was cool walking in, seeing people, in South Florida that went to your school that are just fans of the school, whatever it may be, and having the atmosphere of just total chaos at a sports bar. Everyone's having fun. Everyone's screaming for their team. People are getting pissed off. People are, crying out of joy. It was good. And it felt like the world was right again. It felt like we were sitting outside on the balcony on this table, and if everyone was having fun, you see strangers walk up to other people, play cornhole. You see people walk up, hey, let's play pool for shots, whatever it may be. It felt like things were back to normal. I hadn't been to a bar that packed that, wasn't a club or anything like that during the daytime in almost 2 years. A year and a half is probably the last time it was. And that was in a college town in Tuscaloosa. So seeing everybody out, seeing everybody having fun, especially college football, was amazing. We have NFL coming up tomorrow. I believe the first game of the season, we will see another couple Alabama players with the Cowboys Buccaneers. Fortunately, I hope both teams lose. And that's because I really don't want to see Tom Brady win anymore. I'm beginning to like him more and more, but still at the end of the day, not a big fan. He was my biggest rival, being a Colts fan growing up, and got the end of the stick on that one quite a bit. But like I said, football's back. It feels like the world can take a breath again, and it was exciting. So whatever you guys did for the first college game day, let me know who you're rooting for. I know a lot of people were making bets on it. A lot of people won, a lot of people lost. And it's just good to see that, texting your friends, whether it be a rival, texting the people, just chirping the people that walk by that are in different uniforms. We were playing Miami and we're in South Florida. So it was awesome, just chirping other people, just getting after it. And everyone normally is good sport, but it's fun. That's what sports are about. That's what, if you boil it down, it's just talking shit. And if you talk to anybody that played competitive sports, guy, girl, really doesn't matter at whatever level, you're always talking shit. You're always yelling. You always find a number on the other team that you don't like. And you're just like, all right, we'll bet we're going to have a problem. And then you go back and forth. And that's half of the fun of getting out there playing sports. And something I think you don't really think about originally, but whenever you see it happen, whenever you see people rip their helmets off, like the Notre Dame guy who got a touchdown or intercepted a pass, immediately rips his helmet off, gets a flag. That's what college sports is about. Just absolutely getting rowdy, bleeding their colors. And I think that's something that I don't see in professional sports. I see it to a degree, but there's something about, the college experience, something about the college years that I think gets people so invested in where they went. And, a lot of people will go places they didn't like or go places they had to go, whether it be financially, academically, it was the only opportunity. It was the one place they applied to. There's a million different reasons, but I think that connection doesn't really hold up to, where you're born. I picked Indianapolis. I was born in Indy. That's what, I was there for 3 months. If you're born and raised in the city, I could see how that would be. But I think that the love for college sports, and I think the just absolute animals people turn into whenever they're cheering for their college team comes from that connection of that, growing through it. College are some of the best and toughest years of life, and growing through that and having such a bond with, the logo, the colors, the tradition of wherever you went. It doesn't matter if it's Eastern Michigan. It doesn't matter if it's, University of Texas, El Paso. You'll find people that love that school. You find people that are about it, and you'll find them everywhere. You'll run into people that are either alumni or want to be alumni or have been fans their whole life. And it's just a different atmosphere than the pros. I got a lot of friends, and I used to be a big fan of the pros. That's all I would watch. I didn't really start watching college football for real until the end of high school. And, I would dip and dabble. I remember the first college memory is the Texas Tech UT game where Michael Crabtree caught the ball on the corner and knocked off number 1 UT, which was amazing. And I was living in Virginia at the time, didn't quite realize that I'd be going to that school one year. And it's weird how life works out, but that was my first college football memory that I have. And then next thing you know, going to a school that wins a couple championships here and there, and just having a great time. But like I said, the big thing is, feels like the world's kind of taking a breath, at least, whether it be in Florida, whether it be in the South, it seems like even everywhere, even up north, it seems like they're getting a little more relaxed, which is what we needed. Getting everyone locked up and pissed off and just fucking doing nothing is never going to lead to us going forward. And now there's all this other stuff, which I'm not even going to get into. This will never be a political podcast. This will never worry about any of this shit like that. I think it's all just dumb to waste your time on, waste your life on. And I see people every day just getting sucked into it their whole life. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But I'd rather not worry about it and just fucking go for it. And I think a lot of people are in that mindset. Seeing it this weekend, seeing people go out there, seeing people have fun. Like I said, the big thing is when you see like strangers play like a game of cornhole or pool or whatever it may be, and just get along and have fun. You could be different schools, you could be cheering for different people. It really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, seeing people meet, seeing people have a good time is always fun. It's like that moment whenever you have two friends that didn't know each other and you introduce them and they become, really good friends. It's kind of a moment like that. And kind of sticking along with that, one of the books I've been listening to recently, and I'm trying to get more into reading, physically reading books, because it's never been a strong suit, but that's also because I've never put in the time, never really put in the effort of reading. I tried to learn how to, I don't even know, speed read back in the day, back at the end of high school, and I got pretty decent at it. I finished a book in a class period. Granted, it was a short ass book. It was like 150 pages, and it worked to a point. I really didn't like the idea of it. I didn't remember everything, the next day, but it's one of those things that you just got to practice and get better at. But I've been listening to How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, I've read the first half or first third of this book physically before and never got through it, because that's, what I do is I'll read the first third of a book and then I'll skip to another book and then just never catch up. And then by the time I come back to it, I already don't remember any of it. So I've been listening to it. If you haven't, go on Audible. It's connected to your Amazon. That's what I recommend. No free shout outs, but that is one, there's somebody I'd love to work with in the future. And it's stuff like whenever you're at the gym, you wouldn't think about this. I used to be, only just hardcore rock, whether it be Five Finger Death Punch, Disturbed, all that. I still listen to that quite a bit when I'm at the gym or from, running, which I never do. But turning on an audiobook changes, it speeds things up. If you listen to an audiobook while you're driving, or a podcast, Idols Travels podcast, if you're listening to an audiobook or a podcast while you're driving, things will go quicker. I know music, it can be more fun, more entertaining, but I really have seen, you got a 4, 5, 6, 8 hour drive. You knock through a book, it's going to go a lot quicker in your head because you're having these discussions, you're having these conversations back and forth. Like when you listen to a podcast, like when you're listening right now and you're thinking, oh, okay, I agree with that. I disagree with that. What a dumbass take. Things like that come along with, the conversation. And so after getting through a good majority of the book, I think I only have an hour left of it. And pro tip, listen to it on, 1.5 speed, 1.7 times speed. You can still understand it fully. It's just, you're going to crank through a lot more books quicker. And that's the way I like to do it. And even going on normal speed now, when I listen to things, it sounds slow to me. It sounds like people are specifically trying to slow it down. And it's just something that you'll get over time. And once you start listening to audiobooks, you'll fully understand. But the first thing that hit me, and this was, 14 minutes into the listening to the book, was the great aim of education is not knowledge, but action. And this one, I was walking to work and stopped dead in my tracks and added a clip, added a bookmark to this part of the podcast, or this part of the audiobook rather. And it just went against everything I had thought. It went against everything that I had been taught, that I've been taught to know, whether it be through schooling, high school, college, whatever. It's not about knowledge, it's about action. So educating yourself, you think, it was always read this chapter and you'll be tested on it. Do this, and then you'll have to write an essay on it. Read this book, and then we're going to have a quiz on it tomorrow. It wasn't learn a virtue and act on it. It wasn't, here's a skill, now go do it. It was, what did this say verbatim? Circle and answer. It wasn't, hey, you've learned this trait, now go implement it, go discipline yourself to do something. It was, okay, what was the main storyline? What was the thesis? What was the variable you needed to solve for? It was all these things that weren't implemented in real life. You're in an air-conditioned classroom with a sheet of white paper and a pencil for everything. It's always the same. Now it's on computers, whatever, fuck off. It's not the point. It was never implementing these things into your real life. And that's why whenever I heard that, it totally switched. It was, why am I learning more things off YouTube and off books than I am from high school or college classes? It's because I would go out, or I'd learn, how to do something, editing a video or editing audio, whatever it may be. And then I would act on it. I would work on it. And it, it takes a while to build that muscle up. And then, you film a podcast, or you make a video, whatever it may be. Or I read something in a book, how to sleep better. That was another one. And then you're implementing it. You're doing daily practices. You turn your phone off before you go to sleep. You don't eat, carbs or sugars past X amount of time. You set a routine of when you go to sleep, because that'll affect, if you go to sleep at the same time every day, or get up at the same time every day, then you build a habit in your head and your circadian rhythm lines up. Why was I never bringing stuff like that home from class? And, there were some things, I'd in investment classes, I would go home and screw around in Robinhood or TD Ameritrade and, sell, buy, sell paper stocks, things like that, which was fun, was something I was interested in, and obviously why I majored in it. But, learning, and I've noticed this, and now the more that I verbalize it on this podcast right now, the more I've realized, the shit you do whenever you're not told to, when like the stuff you learn about, the stuff when you go down that rabbit hole of YouTube videos, and it's like, how to do a hyper realistic painting, or how to do this. Then you're like, oh, well, what's the technique? Oh, I got to draw certain lines. Oh, I got to get these certain pens. Let me watch reviews on the pens. And then now then you go out to Michael's and you go buy the pens, you go buy the canvas, you go buy everything like that. That's the action. And the knowledge was never knowing, do 3 stripes and you draw a bird. The knowledge was knowing, okay, well, this is what I need to do to create a bird. Or, okay, you want to start a business. Okay, well, you don't need to know that 37% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years. All right. You need to know, oh, here's how marketing works. Here's how a great leader works. Here are the things, you gotta acknowledge them. You gotta, praise highly. You gotta, always thinking their point of view. All that stuff's great. And all that stuff's talked about in this book, but it's not a question on a test. It's realizing whenever you're talking to someone and you go, okay, well, I want to get them on my side of this subject or my side of this opinion. It's realizing, okay, now's the time to use that. And I never did that. I'd a very great test taker. And to a fault, to where I would never study for tests. Even through college, I'd studied for, actually studied more than 2 days, probably once or twice. And that's because, I could see it. I could see it in my mind's eye. I could be like, okay, on the third page of the notes, boom, I got you right there. But I'd never use it. I'd never, I'm trying to start a business. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I never use it as a tool. It was always, okay, well, I learned this. Here's what it's going to be applied to. It's going to be applied to me reading a question and me solving a problem. It's not applied to me looking at someone in the face and saying, this is how it is, or using those tactics to improve myself, to make someone's life better, to make my business better, whatever it is. It was always, I'm answering a question on a piece of paper, or I'm saying a speech. And that disconnect between the classroom and getting a grade as to identifying it in a real life scenario was something that I had never thought about before, until I heard, the point of education is not knowledge, it's action, because knowledge is nothing without action. And I think there's another quote somewhere out there that's, knowledge is knowing something, wisdom is knowing how to use it. And if that wasn't a quote, then there you go. Idols to Rivals, fucking write that one down. 2021. And having that disconnect in my head was kind of like, okay, well, why haven't I implemented this? Well, there was never a time to. There was never, here's how you identify the problem. And I think identifying things is the biggest thing. And that's what, meditating has done a lot for me, is being, okay, I think about this big problem. I think about, all right, how do I get, more sales on the business side of things? How do I market better? How do I do all of these things? How do I promote this podcast better? All things like that. And, immediately, as gears start turning, oh, well, they do this, they do that. Ah, well, I'm not them. I'm not as good as them. I don't have the fancy lights. I don't have the fancy technology. I don't have all that. I don't have a marketing crew. I don't have somebody to run my Twitter account, all that stuff. And then it's like, whoa, you're on the hook. You bit the hook of just fear and everything like that. What do they say to do? In some camps, Gary V, make all the content in the world. That's kind of the route I've been taking, is make as much content as humanly possible. And, you get better, you build the best pot by making as many pots as possible. They break, they shatter, whatever. You become a better sculptor. Boom. That's how to do it. Rather than focusing on making the best one item, you make a million of them. Pots was probably not the best fucking metaphor there, but we'll get over it. And, but yeah, and it's identifying that it's going from knowledge to action. It's going from knowing, okay, well, this is what you should do, to being like, okay, I'm on the computer doing it. It's knowing that disconnect. It's knowing that this is the time to implement what you have learned. I think was never taught. I think it's super undervalued. I think that's why you have people that have, straight A's. You can go to whatever school you want. You can go to Stanford. You can go to, the Wharton Business School. You can go to Harvard. You can go to fucking, like I said, UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. It doesn't matter. You can know everything in a textbook. If you sit in your room and do nothing with it, what's the point of that 97 on the test? It's realizing, this is the problem I have. I know the solution to it, but I have to act on it. You can sit there and know the solution all you want. It's not going to move. That's not going to turn the gears. That's not going to move things forward. And so finally realizing that's what it was. I kind of realized it, but I'd never been able to verbalize it. And that's another thing. Side note, how wild is that I know all 10 of those words in that sentence, but them being put in an order I've never seen before changes how you think. It's kind of wild how that works, but that's some deep ass thoughts right there. But another thing is, identifying when you're in that moment. Like I said, that's what being mindful has kind of taught me. And obviously I'm very early on in this journey of being more mindful of even, learning about myself, as a lot of us are. But if you can identify, even if you can't fix the problem, if you can identify when your head goes, when you bite, it's called biting the hook, is what I've heard in an audiobook I'd read a few months ago. It was, if you can identify biting the hook, if you can identify that moment where you go off the tracks and you realize, okay, this is the moment where, what do you do when you're afraid? Get up, move, have some action, control your mindset, be, focus on mindset and perspective are everything. Yeah. That sounds all good when I'm sitting here and everything's good to go. I'm relaxing, having a good time. But then when you realize you're doing the same thing you've always done and freaking out and not doing it, and then you're not pulling the trigger, you're not shooting your shot, that's when it was like, fuck, if only I could have identified when that problem came up. And that's what, and this for some reason has been coming up in, all over my social media on just this subject to begin with. And they're all worded pretty similarly. And this is directly from How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was, the only way to get happiness is to control your thought. Happiness does not depend on external forces, but internal ones. Now, this is a massive teaching in Buddhism and meditation. Tony Robbins preaches this quite a bit. If you listen to Tony Robbins, and I saw a video a few days ago about, the last thing you can take away, the last asset you can take away from someone is their ability to make up their mind, their ability to choose their mindset. Because, Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years and he came out and he could have hated the world. He could have jumped off a bridge. He could have done whatever the fuck he wanted to. Could have robbed a bank, could have gone after everyone and killed everyone that he wanted to, that wronged him. He stood strong for 27 years in a cell for something he didn't do. Or was wrongfully in prison for, whatever it may be. Almost 3 decades. And he came out and chose peace, chose improvement, chose growth. It took everything from him. Everything. Locked in a box for almost 3 decades. And that's the thing. That's the struggle. That's my biggest struggle at the moment, I think, is controlling that mindset whenever things are going awry, and not doing the habitual actions that I do that of just, okay, but I learn all this stuff, I read all these books, then whenever it comes time to play, this stuff goes out the window and you just grind through it or push through it, rather than using the tactics that you've been trying to learn and spending all these hours doing. Is realizing it first. You got to notice it, and then choosing the perspective, choosing, this is how I want to react to it. This is how things are going to go forward. No matter what happens externally, this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to feel about it. And then you have all the power in the world, and going back to what I was saying about, my biggest struggle is enjoying now, knowing that I'm going to get everything that I want. And if not everything, 97% of the things that I'm chasing. And I fully believe that, even on some days when it feels like I don't, I know I believe that, and it will happen. You can bet on that. You can take it to the bank. It's knowing that while you're chasing that, you can have that happiness of having it before you do. And like I said, it's spoken a lot about Buddhism, meditation. I'm sure religions all over the world that I'm, not as familiar with. But if you can find happiness now, before everything, before you get what you want, before you get married, or before you get into that law school, then imagine what it's gonna be like on the other side when you get it. And that's what, I love the chase. I love the unknown. Obviously, I move around to places I've never been with people I've never met. And I love that. It's one of the things that I'm so pumped that I realize that I get to have as a personality trait, is fucking just sending it, because it's awesome. It's done so many things for me. But it's also choosing happiness when there's not a lot around. And not even that, like, there's happiness in the grind, but it's appreciating that, It's saying, why would you wait to be happy when you get this, when you get the Lamborghini, when you get the penthouse? Be happy along the whole way. And I'm realizing that more and more, and it's awesome. Happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's like, I get even happier knowing I don't have the things that I want right now, because I know that they're coming and I know I'm going to get them. And I see a lot of people that are the same way. And I've always been jealous of those people. I've always looked at those people and thought, why were they so happy? Why, you had the kids in college and high school and elementary school that it was like, it didn't matter what was going on. They were always positive. They always knew, they were like, oh, it'll get better. And it like pissed you off. You're like, why is Emily happy all the time? What the hell? It just, they never had a bad day. And those people are great. And those people are awesome. And, trying to be one of those people, because I resented that for a long time. But I think that was just weak mindedness, Look back, I don't think that was a bad thing. I think it was just being weak. I think it was just, not trying to evolve. I think it was being stagnant, which is a quick trap, and a trap that makes you lose time, makes you lose energy, makes you lose everything. And so it's awesome. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Be happy now. Be happy now. And then when you sit there and you're thinking about it, you're like, damn, things are going good. Even if they're not, find something to be happy about. And then even when you think about all the things you're going after, I don't care if it's a family, I don't care if it's a mega yacht, but then picture yourself there and just feel that, because that's how you're going to get it. I promise you. But I appreciate you guys for listening. This has been episode number 64 of the Idols to Rivals podcast on September 8th, 2021. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Monty. Can't wait for you to get married. It's going to be an absolute time. And hopefully we'll see you guys on the next one. I upload these every Wednesday, video version on YouTube. Just search Jack Hummel, Idols to Rivals, whatever you want to search. And also available on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, and everything else you can listen to podcasts on. So I appreciate you guys for listening. If you could share it with a friend, I appreciate it. It really helps me out. Post it on Facebook, whatever you can. And we'll grow this thing to the top and hopefully build a community of people just getting after it, people going for it, and people having fun. And that's all I want in my circle. And hopefully that's what you're surrounding yourself with. But appreciate you guys. Remember, attack everything, fear nothing, and just keep firing. You'll get it.